What is going on, my horror fans and friends? I know it has been what feels like months, but we are back with day 13 of my horror movie challenge, watching and reviewing a horror film that I have never seen before. And guys, today's film was long overdue, and I'm very thankful that I got to experience this one on the big screen. I would not have wanted to experience this any other way. Today's film is the highly regarded horror sci fi classic Ridley Scott's Alien from 1979. This is a movie that I have had on my watch list for years now, and I am incredibly ashamed that I continuously put this on the back burner because this instantly became one of my favorite horror movies of all time. As some of you know, this film got a re release in theaters to celebrate the 45th anniversary of the original film. And to me, that was just the perfect opportunity to go check this out. And I am so glad I did because this is a movie that should be experienced on the big screen. I know everybody won't get that opportunity, unfortunately, but it just made the scope of things so much more massive and on a just wider scale. This really felt like a cinematic event, and I was completely enamored and captivated from the very beginning. I feel like I'm the only horror fan who hadn't seen this film up until now, but if you haven't, this follows a group of people who are in space alone, and they discover an interference of some sort of transmission. So they go to check it out, only to come across and become encountered with a deadly form of life, hence the title Alien, and they begin to get picked off one by one. And I absolutely love the tagline for this film: in space, no one can hear you scream, because that is absolutely a point of emphasis throughout this whole runtime. The first half of this film is really a slow burn, but Ridley Scott does a phenomenal job of keeping you captivated and keeping you glued in throughout that first half. Just from the very beginning, the score is one of the best scores I've ever heard in any horror film. Just absolutely sets the tone, creates this atmosphere that really hones in the fact that you are alone in space. The lighting, the framing in the shots is something that really caught my eye, especially seeing it on the big screen. I love the way it's framed, and just everything about the first half of the film was enough for me. Even if we hadn't got to the horror yet, the atmosphere that was built and created by Ridley Scott, along with a phenomenal cast of characters, I just loved all of it. This cast and ensemble of characters just mesh perfectly. They're so well written so that you really care for these characters, especially when shit starts to hit the fan. Their chemistry is on point. Each and every single one of them excel in their own roles, and their logic and the reasoning of their thinking, it all makes sense. Like I said, this is very well written, and I just appreciated how believable these characters were. Then you get to the horror part of this film where shit really just hits the fan, and it what was already a phenomenal viewing experience, at least for me, just shot it through the roof after that. I mean, there were actually some really well executed jump scares that I had no expectations of. I definitely didn't see any of that coming. Um, the creature design for this alien is phenomenal. The practical effects are mwah, chef's kiss. Everything about it. Again, I feel like I'm repeating it, but this, I was genuinely taken back by how much I enjoyed this film because I was not expecting it to be this good, but I completely understand why this is considered a horror classic. Then we just got to talk about Sigourney Weaver because she is an absolute queen, a badass in every right. And look, I'm a Sydney Prescott stan. I believe she is the best final girl of all time. But after seeing Alien, look, Ellen Ripley is giving Sydney Prescott a run for her money because this woman is the epitome of what a final girl should be in a horror film. Phenomenal. The performance, so believable. She just absolutely bodied her role. The way her character is written is just phenomenal. There's no way you watch this movie and don't root for this woman. This is a film that I know I'm gonna love even more and appreciate even more on rewatch, and I'm sure there's just so much more to pick up on, things that I probably missed while I was in the theater. But needless to say, this is an absolute masterpiece. I am so glad I finally got to experience this film. I'm glad I got to experience it in theaters. That's something I never thought I'd be able to say. If you haven't watched this movie yet, you absolutely need to check this out. Oh, and I had to record a small little clip while I was in the theater of this final act because I was just so appalled by what I was seeing, and I mean that in the best way. So let me go ahead and throw that in here real quick.